Part 21. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Xiaoye 11U. Chapter 203. Sukingyu spent a day picking bamboo fungus in the mountains, and she quickly fell asleep with Xiaobao, sleeping deeply and soundly. But Lu Bachan couldn't sleep. I have read Sukingyu's letter no less than a dozen times, and I know it by heart. The little portrait of Xiaobao is also engraved in my heart. I tossed and turned in bed and couldn't sleep. Thinking about what happened to the mother and son, my heart felt painful and sad. I originally thought that my wife would be fine and live a quiet and stable life in Fenting town. There is no shortage of food and drink at home, and his father is not a harsh person. Although there is a stepmother here, her grandfather's 15 acres of land are still in her hands, which is enough for her to eat and drink alone. Just having children is enough. I didn't expect that I would actually have a child. Lu Viang? Xiaobao? Lu Bachan grinned widely and laughed silently. The wife said that he was strong, smart, lively, and sensible, and looked like him. Aren't you saying something stupid? His son doesn't look like him, which one should he look like? Then I thought about it again. Is it because my father is not around that Xiaobao is obedient and sensible and rarely cries? He hadn't even passed his first birthday yet, so he was following his mother around. I'm just a little old, I can't walk or speak, and I have to endure hardships with the adults all the way. Lu Bachan put the quilt over his head. Guo, who was sleeping in a tent, listened quietly and sighed. General, he cried again. He didn't dare to make a sound. He lay down straight and didn't dare to turn over, for fear of disturbing him. Since the general received the letter from home, he has been acting abnormally, crying and laughing at the same time. It's been a day, and it's like my soul is out of body. However, if he had such a lovely son and a wife who could read and write, raise children and make money, he would also laugh. But when he heard that his wife and children had left their hometown and suffered hardships along the way, he might also cry. Guo thought blankly. When he meets his sister-in-law in the future, he must ask her to find a wife like her and have a child who looks like him. Guo laughed, his eyes flashing expectantly in the dark night. Suddenly, he heard movement from the general's side. Got out of bed. What are you going to do? Go out and pee. I listened carefully, but there was none. The general did not leave the tent, but lit the oil lamp. General. Lu Bachan's men paused. Did they wake you up? No, I haven't slept yet. Then you continue to sleep. How can I sleep here? Wa stood up and looked at him. I saw him pick up his sword and quickly got under the bed. Guo rolled his eyes silently. It's buried so deep, so hidden, and so heavily guarded. Who dares to go in and steal it? As soon as he finished complaining, he saw him get out from under the bed, pour a jar of gold on the hem of his clothes, and start counting. The dog just wants to hit the bed. What's wrong with that? Stay up late at night, dig for gold and count the gold. Are you tired of guarding the city wall during the day? Is it because the wind blowing eats away enough soil? She looked at him speechlessly. Seeing that he was stunned after counting the gold and holding the jar, he finally couldn't help it and asked, General, how many times have you counted the gold? Why are you still counting? I heard Lu Bachan sigh leisurely. I don't have that much salary now. The monthly salary is not enough for me to go to the kitchen to exchange for food. Xiaobao will study, get married, and buy property in the future. How can these be enough? Guo just stood up and fell back on the bed. General, are you thinking too far? Your son is only 2 years old, 2 years old. What happened to 2 years old? He grew up very quickly. I didn't know he existed before today. You see, he suddenly turned 2 years old. After a while, he suddenly grew up. Your son grew up in the wind, right? After a while, he suddenly grew up. Then I heard Lu Bachan say again, "You are now serving as a soldier beside Marshal Kui. Haven't you heard him say that his daughter has been preparing a dowry since she was born, and she has to go to the south to find wood for furniture? I've been looking for it for several years. That's a big family. We are from a small family, so it's good to have enough food." Wa curled his lips. "That's not okay. I'm like this myself, and I can't let my son be like me." If Sukingyu heard this, she would definitely praise him for his insight. When modern people motivate themselves, they often say, "I am not the second generation of rich people, but I want my children to become the second generation of rich people." The slogans were shouted loudly, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Lu Bachan didn't know he had a son before. After he was assigned to guard the city, his heart withered little by little, facing the Gobi and desert every day. When I received a letter from Sukingyu today, my heart felt like a rain fell on a field that had been dry for a long time. He just felt that every pore in his body was shouting that he wanted to live. Live well. He wants to see his wife and his son. Lu Bachan looked at the treasure he held in his arms, which he had hidden for almost 3 years, and sighed leisurely. "I wonder if my wife and Xiaobao are well now and whether they can eat. It would be great if I could bring this gold to my wife." She was a woman with a child, far away from her hometown, without a house or land, wandering around. She was also separated from her father-in-law and mother-in-law. How difficult it must be to leave her hometown. If only he were by her side. Lu Bachan's eyes became warm again. He turned around and lay back under the bed, burying the jar again. Tears dripped into the soil and disappeared quickly. In the mountains of Jiangdong, Sukingyu had a good night's sleep. The weather is cool, which is perfect for sleeping. The Kong is ready, but not used yet. There is another quilt added. Yesterday, she was exhausted from carrying the bamboo shoots back and forth from the foot of the mountain. "I fell into bed and fell asleep last night without even having a dream." The same goes for Xiaobao. After running around in the bamboo forest all day, he slept soundly as soon as he got into bed last night. One morning, Sukingyu woke up, but her body didn't move. When the weather gets cold, it's the best time to lie in bed. Staying in bed or something like that is my favorite. I was lying on the bed when I suddenly felt my arm feel heavy. Soon 2 more small hands climbed up. Sukingyu smiled. He turned sideways and held Xiaobao in his arms. As long as Xiaobao gets enough sleep, he won't be a snooze at all in the morning. She wakes up on time. If you open your eyes and see that she's not awake yet, come over and hold her arms and get into her arms. Is Xiaobao awake? Is mother awake? Mom still wants to sleep. Xiaobao still wants to sleep. Xiaobao, are you sleeping with your mother? You are so good. Good. Whose family does this well-behaved baby belong to? Damn it. It's my mother's. It's so good. She smells so good. Xiaobao twisted his little body and giggled. He also held Sukingyu's face and kissed it from side to side. He lay in Sukingyu's arms and closed his eyes again. Sukingyu touched his small back, the soft flesh on the back of his neck, his fleshy little butt, and 2 fleshy little legs, and scraped the soft soles of his feet, making him he giggled in amusement, twisting his little body to avoid the tickle. Sukingyu raised her lips, feeling extremely satisfied. "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 204. The women in the village traveled for 5 or 6 days and even searched the mountains next door. The results they obtained were astonishing. Several large sacks were stuffed into the grain storage warehouse of each family. If the family had a large population, there would be more than a dozen sacks. Nuts and fungi are the most abundant among all kinds of mountain products, and Ganoderma lucidum is also picked by many people. Sukingneo didn't know the price of medicinal herbs. But she still roughly knows the price of mountain goods. I just don't know how high it has gone up now. She has collected mountain goods before, so she naturally knows how to deal with all kinds of mountain goods. He instructs the women in the village to wash, dry, shell, and fry in various ways. Very busy. Within 2 days, the man who went hunting in the mountains also came back. Wild animals are also piled up like hills. There are many kinds of wild boar, hare, pheasant, ibex, deer, and wolf. Fortunately, the weather is cool, otherwise I wouldn't be able to keep it for so many days. They also know how to divide labor, and some tasks are easily handled in the mountains. The leader of the Zongjai village refused to accept his old age and followed the men into the mountains this time. When he came back, he walked very quickly, moved the wild animals to the stream at the foot of the mountain, and called the women to help deal with them. The village suddenly became lively, just like the Chinese New Year. Adults and children all gathered around the stream at the foot of the mountain. Normally, the village would organize men to go hunting in the mountains, and after returning, the meat would be divided according to heads. It doesn't matter whether everyone keeps the food at home and eats it or sells it. The leader of Zongjai also greeted Su Qingyu. This time her family member Si Yuan also followed. I thought that these two brothers had never been into the mountains and asked the men in the village to take care of them. Who knew that they were just unfamiliar with the road and had good skills. Half of this pile of prey is due to these two brothers. Si Yuan had more meat than everyone else. The two brothers were so excited that they didn't feel tired at all. They rushed to Su Qingyu to express their merits. Miss, our family can share a lot of meat this time. There is no shortage of meat to eat this winter. Xiaobao has meat to eat. Su Qingyu couldn't help but laugh. This time the village plans to exchange it for food. You won't sell it? The brothers shook their heads. Don't sell it, keep it to eat. Xiaobao was watching the excitement from the side, and the bloody Su Qingyu couldn't stand it anymore. Xiaobao didn't know whether it was because he was young and didn't understand, or he was born to be bold, so he watched with gusto. Hearing Si Yuan brothers say to keep the meat for eating, he smiled happily at them. Eat, Xiaobao eats meat. The two brothers were so happy. Well, let's leave it all to Xiaobao. Mother Lu and Ruyi, mother and daughter, also helped with the women in the village, and divided the meat after it was done. Each family kept some, and the rest was sold for food and other household purposes, so they were all gathered together for pickling and smoking. Although Si Yuan said to keep the meat for eating, Su Qingyu decided to sell some. Things are expensive now, so I should be able to sell them for some money. After a few days of busy work, Su Qingyu was ready to ask Si Yuan to take the people in the village out to sell goods. In previous years, we had never sold so many things. All kinds of wild and mountain goods were gathered in Su Qingyu's front yard. They were piled up so much that there was no room to stand. Everyone was very excited, as if they saw Brother Kongfang flying towards them one by one. The people in the village are used to being self-sufficient and don't know much about the market. If Su Qingyu had not organized everyone to go hunting in the mountains this time, and everyone was so enthusiastic, they might not have found so many wild products and wild animals. Working alone and working in a group, the results are completely incomparable. Su Qingyu looked at the harvest in the field and felt worried, not knowing how to sell it. Then he said to everyone, there are two ways. One is to organize people to sell them in Beipi County, Gongzi County, Renzhou City, and the money obtained will be divided according to the amount handed in by each family. The other is, I will let Si Yuan send the goods to the governor's house and ask them to help sell it. They have connections and caravan information, and the price may be higher than ours. Upon hearing this, everyone agreed, then transport it to the governor's mansion. After hearing this, Su Qingyu said, however, if someone else helps us sell it, we can save our worries, but they still have to worry about sales, and they must not worry about it in vain. So I will give the governor's office a 20% profit. After Sukingyu finished speaking, the villagers started talking among themselves. Sukingyu just watched and listened indifferently without speaking. The leader of Zongjai glanced at the crowd, and said anxiously, "It should be, it should be. Originally, we had the protection of the governor and Lord Ma, and we should have paid half of our respect to them. Half is too much. After all, everyone worked hard to find it. I don't see any shelter." The family was tired for several days climbing up and down the mountain. The men eat and live in the mountains. They don't have enough food or sleep. For so many days. There was a lot of discussion. Sukingyu glanced at the crowd with a faint eyebrow. When there is no conflict of interest, we are all brothers and sisters. Once there is a conflict of interest, my mother and I can fight each other and have their own little plans. It is human nature to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. After a while, Sukingyu said, "Let's do this. My godfather has only sent me here, and the others haven't entered the stronghold yet. His share will not be counted for now. Only the governor's share will be counted. If he wants to help us sell it, he has to put in a lot of effort and worry. There are bandits everywhere on the road, and even ordinary merchants can't go out. It's really hard to do without some connections." "That's right, it's most worry-free to let the governor help sell it." Zongjai leader nodded repeatedly. The villagers did not express their opinions. The Zongjai leader looked a little anxious. If it weren't for Mrsu, would there be so many things? If it weren't for Mr. Ma, would they be discussing how much mountain goods should be sold here now? Maybe he is still working for the bandits now. Have the women in the village healed their scars and forgotten the pain? Sukingyu was silent for a moment, and then said, "Let's see, we will divide into 3 groups this time. One will be led by Siyuan Terenzo, the other will be led by Zongjai village master, who will work harder and lead the people in the village to the nearest village. Sell it to Beipi County, take people all the way to Gongzi County via Beishu. Each family can make their own choice. For those who ask Siyuan to take him to Renzo, 20% of the profit will be left to the governor's office. In addition, those who go out to help everyone sell goods will be settled at 15 cents a day. It will be considered as their hard work and it will be deducted from the interest." After Sukingyu finished speaking, he saw everyone in the yard talking a lot, and turned to the leader of Zongjai, "Uncle Zhong, how about you lead a team?" The leader of Zongjai sighed, "Do we have to divide it into 3 groups? Wouldn't it be easier to leave them all to the governor's office to help sell them?" After saying this, he glanced at the villagers, who felt that iron could not make steel. "Let's divide it into 3 groups. Let everyone go out and have a look if there is a chance. It will be good for everyone to learn more." Sukingyu gave Zongjai master a look after saying this. Lord Zonghan paused when he saw Sukingyu's eyes. Sukingyu smiled at him. "There are different voices, they can only be diffused but not blocked. The more traffic there is, the worse it will be. Only if you let everyone experience it for themselves and understand what is going on, will everyone listen to you in the future. Only then will there be a unified pace. Otherwise, every time she does something in the future, she will make various noises. Why did she come to this? If you buy a mountain deed and hold it yourself, if you buy a group of people, wouldn't it be nice to do it yourself?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 205. Finally, the villagers divided the goods into 3 routes, each of which was similar. Originally, the leader of Zongjai thought that everyone was trying to save trouble by handing it over to Siyuan and the others to take a lot more to Renzo. Unexpectedly, after being divided into 3 groups, the difference was not much different. The leader of Zongjai glanced at the villagers. I feel quite resentful that iron cannot become steel. I just think that 20% of the money I got will be taken away, and I can't bear it. Do you think it's so easy to sell outside? If you don't have connections or people, don't sell it at a high price and get robbed. The war was in chaos, and many people had no food to eat. But they are all wild products that each family has worked hard to find, and they are everyone's choice, so he can't say much. I just sighed in my heart. Give him and Jiuer's things to see Yuan brothers. When Sukingyu saw that everyone had made their choice, she didn't want to worry about the remaining manpower. Uncle Zhong, I'm sorry to bother you. It's up to you to choose the manpower. OK, Zongjai master sighed and selected some people to follow him into the city to sell goods. Sukingyu sold half of the mountain goods that Ruyi and Lu Shixun had bought, and kept the other half to eat at home. Si Yuan and the others also sold half of the pigs they hunted and kept half. After everything was divided, the three teams set off to three places the next day. Inside the mountains are high and the forests are dense, and life is relatively peaceful. Outside the mountains, the situation is still grim. After Wang Hu occupied the eastern capital, Emperor Shuo sent troops to attack, but could not capture it for a long time. Wang Hu thought that he couldn't just wait for others to attack, so he passively faced them. So he sent the brave General Meng Kai to lead 10,000 elite troops to attack Hu. Lu Zongli, the military governor of the Shuo dynasty, fought against Meng Kai, but was defeated. Lu Zongli was very practical. Seeing that he was about to be destroyed, he immediately led his troops to submit to the Qi army. Make Emperor Shuo angry. But Wang Hu was very proud. As for Meng Kai, he was also a little arrogant. The army did not need to be repaired, and then attacked Chenzhou. Unexpectedly, I encountered a tough problem. Zhao Zhao, the governor of Chenzhou, was prepared for his attack and went out with all his troops to surround Meng Kai. Zhao Zhao was a famous general in the Shuo dynasty, and his family was a well-known family of military generals. Starting from his grandfather, and counting down 4 generations, all of them were brave and good at fighting, and had numerous military exploits. Having fought many battles, large and small, with the Qi army, it can be said that he has a deep understanding of the Qi army. Zhao Zhao besieged Meng Kai, and soon Meng Kai, who was floating, was defeated and captured. Zhao Zhao did not hesitate at all and immediately beheaded Meng Kai to boost the morale of the army. The Qi army was in chaos and returned defeated. Wang Hu immediately spat out a mouthful of old blood. This is hateful. Meng Kai was the first younger brother to join him during the uprising, and his loyalty can be demonstrated by the sun and the moon. It can be said that he is the first person around him and his first favorite. Wang Hu was still waiting to share the world with Meng Kai, but he never expected that Meng Kai would leave so suddenly. Wang Hu was extremely sad and angry. Moreover, at this juncture, heroes from all over the world are waiting to come and watch the excitement. His best general, Meng Kai, was actually killed by Shuo's army. If Wang Hu didn't do something, wouldn't those people switch to Emperor Shuo's arms? Something must be done. And Meng Kai's great revenge must be avenged. So Wang Hu personally led the army and joined forces with the surrendered Lu Zong to besiege Chenzhou. For a time, Chenzhou was surrounded by Qi troops. As time went by, no matter how brave Zhao Zhao was and no matter how good his family was on the battlefield, they would not be able to withstand the fact that people had been surrounding him for so long, and they were about to run out of food. So Zhao Zhao urgently asked for help from the neighboring road. Chenzhou was besieged, and Emperor Shuo, who returned to Chang'an and was singing, dancing and feasting, was alarmed. Wang Hu has already besieged his own territory, so he can't do nothing. This Zhao family, a loyal family, cannot let down the hearts of loyal ministers and generals who have been working hard for Shuo dynasty for several generations. Therefore, Emperor Shuo appointed Shi Pu, the Jadushi envoy of the Gilan army, as the commander of the army and horses in the east, and together with Zhouji, the Jidushi envoy of Zhongwu town, went to Quanzhou for rescue. At the same time, Emperor Shuo continued to mobilize troops from various places to encircle and suppress Qi armies from all walks of life. Military orders were also issued to Kui Sheng, the military envoy of Fengxiang. Let's talk about the south. I don't know if it was because of the cold weather or some other reason, but the three groups of people who set out from the village didn't see anyone on the road for a long time. It was eerily quiet. Even in prefectures and counties, there are increasingly fewer people. Zongjai Master and Beishu each took the strong men from Beijiazai, pushing wheelbarrows and carrying various wild animals on their backs, walking in the county town, looking at each other, not knowing where to go. There are not many people in this county, and there are not many businesses open, so how can these goods be sold? Everyone, you look at me, I look at you. Standing on the street looking left and right, with a confused look on his face. Little did they know that their group had been targeted as early as when they entered the city. Seeing that there were so many of them, the people behind the scenes had not yet made any move, and they were very happy to see how silly they looked. This look of someone who has never seen the world is really endearing. But on the other side, going to see Yuan in Renzhou City went very smoothly. After all, Pei Nian, the governor of Renzhou, came from the capital. He was a son of an aristocratic family and had a serious academic background. People who have been the prince's young master, what kind of world have they not seen? He didn't want to be greedy for those 3 melons and 2 dates, so Renzhou was governed fairly safely by him. Although there are quite a lot of young people, Pei Nian is not a muddle-headed person who is just a corpse. Unlike those county magistrates and prefects who just want to get a vote and leave, he really cares about the people. Therefore, Renzhou City is much calmer than other places. Almost all businesses are open. With the governor's escort, the caravan is willing to come to Renzhou City to do business. Businessman, who doesn't want to make money? Profit is the first priority. Although war is chaotic and risky, the greater the risk, the higher the profit. Therefore, the people buying and selling goods in Renzhou City are still visible to the naked eye. Si Yuan led several people from Beijiazai into the city. Without going anywhere, he led the team and a bunch of wild animals directly into the governor's mansion. Pei Nian read Su Qingyu's letter and the goods brought by Si Yuan and the others, and secretly said yes. It seems that Su Qingyu is indeed a practical person, and she did not do anything wrong by entrusting these 28 villages to her. Pei Nian called his wife and the steward of the outer courtyard of the family, and asked Mrs. Ma to pick out some of the goods that she could use and buy them, and asked the steward of the outer courtyard to contact the caravan to sell the rest. The two of them left in response. This time Si Yuan and the others brought a lot of furs, and Madame Ma picked out a lot. There were also many unseen nuts, fungi, and the meat of many wild animals. Mrs. Ma liked it very much and picked a lot for her family and acquaintances. Anyway, anyone can buy it, and the price is favorable. There may not be such a complete range of mountain products outside. Mrs. Ma was happy with the selection, and the manager's contact with the merchant was also very smooth. As soon as he heard that there were mountain goods in the mansion, he immediately followed him into the governor's mansion. Seeing such a large quantity and variety of mountain products, the caravan manager was very happy and bought them all at a very good price on the spot. He also asked Si Yuan if they had any more, and said he hoped to continue to cooperate in the future. I heard that most of them were sold to other counties, which is a pity. I asked where they were sold and wondered if I wanted to go over and grab them. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 206. After selling all the goods, the governor withheld 20% of the profit as Su Qingyan said in the letter. Read. But he didn't plan to take all of it, and planned to leave 10% of the profit to Ma Mingguan. Si Yuan had already established a relationship with the manager of the caravan. They learned that he had a lot of goods, and bought a lot of food and various daily necessities needed by the village from him. Both parties were happy. The goods were sold out in just one day, and they also bought what everyone in the village needed. Si Yuan and his friends went to the cloth shop and the human traffickers, and also asked the manager of the outer courtyard, but there was no news of Su Qing'an's family. Before leaving, Pei Nian gave Si Yuan a letter and asked him to take it to Su Qing'an. Madame Ma also packed some gifts for Su Qing'an. She heard that Xiaobao had frostbite and felt very distressed. She packed a large box of frostbite cream and various medicines for Xiaobao. When the last group of people left, the governor's mansion also ordered people to escort them to the foot of the mountain. Of the three groups of people who went out to sell goods, the first to come back was Si Yuan and Si Yuan. When they came back, everyone in the village gathered around them. Xiu'er was a little worried. Her grandfather had been out for several days and had not returned yet. She wondered if something had happened. Her grandfather had gone to the nearest Beipi county. Those who went to Renzhou had all returned. Su Qing'an glanced at her and asked her to come over to register and distribute silver to everyone. 1/3 of the people in the village handed over their goods to Si Yuan and Si Yuan. Almost every family had dozens or hundreds of kilograms, and some had more than 200 kilograms. At this time, you can see the benefits of having more labor at home. Although each family asked Si Yuan and his friends to exchange some food and daily necessities, the silver in their hands was still heavy. The least family had more than 10 taels of silver. Some had dozens of taels. 2 families picked Ganodermalucidum, and the caravan even offered a price of 20 taels per flower. The 2 families were overjoyed and their faces were red. I have never seen silver before, so much. I don't have to worry about this winter. Si Yuan and Si Yuan were very happy with the people who went to Renzhou together. They didn't suffer any hardship in Renzhou, and they didn't have to go out. A caravan came to ask for goods, and they didn't have to carry them. Moreover, they stayed in the governor's mansion for one night and were treated to delicious food and drinks by the governor's mansion. When several people talked about the governor's mansion, they were full of praise. They said how majestic and approachable the governor was. Everyone was envious. The caravan manager said that winter is coming and nuts are hot selling. Although there are fewer people on the street, the rich people still have money and haven't run away, so they want to find some rare things. So our goods were immediately asked for by the consul of the caravan. He also said that if there are any in the future, they will always ask for them. Yes. The price is also high. Well, he also praised our mountain products for being clean and neat, and the mushrooms are clean and categorized. He said that he likes to do business with sellers like us. Several people talked about it, making those who gave the goods to Si Yuan and Si Yuan to sell very happy. The family members put in some effort and worked in the mountains for a few days. They just picked them back, washed and processed them, and didn't have to worry about anything else, and they got so much silver. Holding the heavy silver, everyone was very happy. When paying Si Yuan and others for their wages, they were particularly straightforward. After taking the money home, these people turned around and sent all kinds of food and side dishes to Su Qingmei. The others were looking forward to the return of the other 2 teams with sourness and worry. They got so much money from selling to Renzhou, so they must have more than them. The governor's office also withheld 20%. After the villagers dispersed, Su Qing'an opened a letter from the governor to her. The letter talked about leaving 10% of the profit to her godfather. He also praised her for doing a good job. It has only been a short time, and she has led the villagers to live a good life. Attached with the letter was a mountain deed with Su Qing'an's name on it. It turned out that Su Qing'an had been traveling with Si Yuan and Si Yuan for many days and found that there was a mountain without any village. It was in Renzhou and not far from their village, so they crossed 2 mountains. Then they asked Pei Nian how much silver it would take to buy it. She didn't have much silver in her hand. Although the money to buy mountain land was much cheaper than the price of buying land, she was afraid that she couldn't afford a whole mountain with the silver in her hand. She originally just wanted to ask, and then have a goal, try to save some money, or rent it first, or buy half a piece, and then plan for the future when she has money. But she didn't expect Painian to give her the mountain deed. He also told her to manage it well. He said that the nuts and bamboo shoots she sent over were loved by her family. Sukingmei was grateful. She decided to send more nuts and bamboo shoots to her family after she managed the mountain well. The letter also mentioned that he helped her find her sister and Sudahua, but the three of them were missing. There was no more letter from the cloth shop. Sukingmei felt lost. I don't know where they are now, and how they are doing. 2 days later, Beishu, who went to Gongzi County, came back first. He didn't sell all the goods, and brought some back. Everyone in the group was a little discouraged. They entered Gongzi County and didn't find the caravan. Several people went door to door to sell. They were treated as bad people when they knocked on the door, and the price was pushed down very low. Several people needed accommodation and food in Gongzi County, and the expenses were high. Seeing that the wild animals and mushrooms had been bought, and the nuts had not been selling for several days, the group did not plan to stay any longer and had to return to the village. When everyone divided the money, they found that those who picked up a lot of wild goods did not get as much money as those who picked up a small amount, and sold them to Renzo for more money. Moreover, the governor's office deducted 20% of the money. I couldn't be happy with the money and felt quite regretful. I looked forward to their return happily, thinking that I was smarter than others, and thought that I would get more money from selling it, but I didn't expect that I didn't even get half of it. Everyone worked equally hard, and even my own family members picked up more wild goods than others. But for so little money, it's hard to hide the loss. 1 day later, Lord Zonghan and his party also came back. They were even more embarrassed than Cyprus, and some of them even had wounds on their faces. Beishu may have followed Sukingyu for a period of time. He was a cautious person, and he also knew how to change things. When he couldn't find merchants, he knocked on doors one by one and sold most of the goods. But Zongjai Master was cheated of the goods. The other party lied to them that they were merchants and asked them to pick out the goods. However, after delivering the goods and waiting for payment, they were kicked out. Several people went up to argue with each other, but unexpectedly, they were beaten and thrown out even if they didn't say they couldn't get the money. The group of people had to pay for various expenses such as medical treatment, accommodation, and food. They didn't earn any money, and they paid a lot of money, and they almost lost their lives. Seeing that her grandfather had been beaten and there were wounds on his face, Shiu rushed towards him and cried. Cyprus also went over to help him. Seeing that he was tired, Sukingneo asked Shiu and Beishu to send the Zongjai leader back home. She stayed to help deal with it. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 207. Seeing them coming back, some of the villagers who came to Sukingyu stopped working. They worked hard up the mountain for several days, but they couldn't get even half a penny. It was better to just stay at home and eat. There was a quarrel, and some people who went to Beipi County were asked to pay compensation. Sukingyu glanced at them indifferently. Didn't she see that several people who went to sell goods were beaten, and they were still injured, and they were still asked to pay compensation? He said coldly, it was agreed at the beginning that it was a free choice. It was your choice to sell more and sell less. If you want them to compensate, then who should they ask for medical expenses? They have worked hard, pushing, carrying, and carrying. I went out to sell goods for you, but I had to pay for food, accommodation, and medical treatment myself. Now I have to compensate you for your losses. The few people who followed the leader of Zhong village to sell goods had their eyes red and felt uncomfortable after hearing Sukingyu's words. I regret not listening to what Sukingyu said back then. They don't want to, and they also want to help the villagers sell mountain goods at a high price. Who knew the other party was so good at deception? They almost didn't come back. When the families of these people heard that their children were being asked to pay compensation, they stopped working. The two groups immediately started arguing. The other two waves of people just felt extremely lucky. And those who followed Siyuan felt even more fortunate. Not only did they not have to spend money on accommodation and food, they also saw a lot in the governor's house and were well entertained. Not only was he treated courteously by the people in the caravan, he finally bought the food and other goods everyone wanted from the caravan, and the price was cheaper than what was sold outside. What a blessing! Look at the other two waves of people, tisk, a big loss for a small gain. People in the mountains say that they can't trap wolves without their children. How come you haven't learned how to do this after living in the mountains for so many years? I stopped working once I heard that 20% of the profits would be deducted. The little abacus was ringing. Why don't you say that they want to help you contact the caravan, make favors, and socialize with others? What's wrong with someone taking your 20% profit if you don't worry about it at all? Think of sesame seeds as bigger than pumpkins. If the rice is not saved, the chickens will be gone too. In the end, the quarrel became too unpleasant, so Sukingyu asked them to stop. Resolved conflicts. It's all your own choice. You can't just keep it if you make a lot, and if you don't make a lot, others will pay for it. That doesn't make sense. But after all the hard work, they didn't get even half a copper, and it was quite difficult for them to have to pay the fees of the few people who sold the goods. Therefore, each family has to accept the loss by themselves. After all, it is their own choice. However, the expenses of the few people who followed the leader of Zongjai to Beipi County were paid by the village. Sukingyu took the cushion first. When Beijiazai turns over the public funds, they will deduct it from it. Then everyone dispersed. When I left, I probably felt a lot of emotions in my heart, but Sukingyu didn't care. People are always responsible for their own behavior. No one will wipe your ass. After dinner, the leader of Zongjai came to see Sukingyu. He was supported by Shiuer and followed by Beishu. After going out, the leader of Zongjai was a little weakened. Sukingyu looked at Shiuer and Beishu. They seemed to have changed a bit. Shiuer didn't seem to hide whenever Beishu was around, but her eyes were still wrong. Baishu looked at Shiuer, still with attachment in his eyes. But Shiuer didn't look him in the eyes, and when she looked at him occasionally, her eyes were indifferent. Sukingyu sighed secretly. Others really can't help with this kind of thing. He went over and helped Master Zhong sit down and said, "Why don't you rest at home? Run over here." The leader of the Zhong village was a little frustrated. "I really can't sleep. It's all because of me that everyone didn't get the money. It's all because I trusted those people. I've been the leader of the village for decades, and I pride myself on being a leader. Others have enjoyed many years of extra food, but unexpectedly, they were still deceived." Sukingyu looked at the Zongjai leader who was blaming himself and comforted him. He said, "We live in the mountains and rarely go out. The people in the village are more simple than those outside. The weather is about to change outside. People's hearts are complicated and we can't take precautions." Zongjai leader shook his head. "It's all my fault. I don't even know how to face them. It's okay, I understand everything. This is not what you want to see. You also brought them all back. If they sell them by themselves, they may not be able to come back intact." The leader of Zhong village was not comforted after listening to it, and said, "I don't have any extra money at home, otherwise I can use it to compensate them. This time, Shiuer and I are going to use all the money we earned from selling mountain products to compensate them. They should pay a little bit." "Take out mine too," Cypress said hurriedly. Shiuer glanced at him and lowered her head when he saw him looking over. Sukingyu couldn't interfere. This is the Zongjai master's own intention. If he feels that doing this will make him feel better, then let him do it. Maybe this can reduce the guilt in my heart. After talking for a while, Master Zongjai stood up and said, I have decided to go on duty starting tonight. From now on, I will ask you, King Lao, to take care of the affairs in the village. Ah! Why are you competing with young people for work? You are too old to stay up at night, Sukingyu advised. But the Zongjai leader refused to listen and insisted on doing so. It seemed that only by doing this, he felt more at ease. Sukingyu failed to change his mind, and finally watched Chiuer and Beishu help him towards the village gate. Alongside, it's hard to lead a team. There are people everywhere who have their own little plans. After the 3 waves of people came back, the village became surprisingly quiet. It turns out that everyone in the village picked up a lot of wild goods this time, and the first batch of people who sold them to Renzo all got a lot of money. They were so happy that they walked with wind in their hearts. Who would have thought that selling it to Gongzi County and Beipi County would be so miserable? Therefore, those who have gained money do not dare to be too proud, for fear of poking scars on others. So there was a strange atmosphere lingering in the village. Then many people ran to the mountains every day, planning to find something more and save some money to sell it in the future, otherwise they would feel uncomfortable. The comparison is even more heart-wrenching and gut-wrenching. Lu and Ruyi also ran to the mountains whenever they had free time. Both mother and daughter fell in love with the work of driving mountains. Life in the mountains is peaceful, and there is no need to worry. No matter how hard you work, you will gain as much as you want, and the lady also gives them all the money they get. So they wanted to collect some more things to save for Xiaobao. He also took Siyuan with him. Within a few days, the 4 of them came back carrying a lot of tea fruits. The front and backyards were full of stalls, and there was no room to even put a foot down. Xiaobao plays in the pile of tea fruits every day. Sometimes when he steps on it, he slips and falls on his butt, but he doesn't cry and enjoys it. Sukingyu, Mrs. Lu and others were all afraid that he would fall out, so they followed him every day. He was told not to play in the pile of tea fruits, but he refused. The adults peeled the tea seeds and followed suit. He learned everything from the adults. There is never a moment of leisure. Very energetic every day. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 208. The leader of the Zhone village had been on guard for a few days. One day, he came to Suqing and panting and said that he saw the swindlers who pretended to be a caravan and cheated them of their goods appeared at the foot of the mountain. Suqing was immediately refreshed when she heard this. She has never been a person who sits and waits for death. When she heard that someone in Beipi County pretended to be a caravan and cheated them of their mountain goods, she was thinking about it. If she didn't do something, she would always feel that she couldn't swallow this breath. Unfortunately, there were few people in the village who had hand skills. She wanted to do something, but she had to hold it back. It's not good to hit a rock with an egg. But when she heard from the leader of the Zhone village that the group of people actually touched the foot of the mountain in front of their village. This is too much. I wanted to find you but there was no place to look for you. You came to her door, so she can't blame her. It's obvious that this group of people got a great benefit, and they were so happy that they got a benefit once and were thinking about the second time. The Zhone village chief and his men were the same. They didn't even know that someone was following them and had reached their doorstep. Their alertness, tisk tisk. Sukingmei didn't have time to complain. She immediately called Siyuan and Siyuan over, and the 4 of them discussed it. In the whole village, except for Siyuan and Siyuan, who were better at fighting, the others could only shoot a few arrows, had some strength, and could hunt some prey. They were probably not good at fighting with humans. Sukingmei gave Si Yuan and Si Yuan some instructions, and the two immediately went to the village gate, rubbing their hands. And the Zhong village chief also immediately went to find people. First he found Beishu, and then asked him to call some strong laborers in the village. When everyone heard that the group of thieves who robbed their goods and injured the men in their village had sneaked into the mountains, they were immediately filled with righteous indignation, and everyone wanted to meet this group of thieves. How bold! How dare they come here? Today, I must make them vomit out all the food, and make them regret coming here. At the foot of the mountain, a group of thieves who had been searching for 2 days but couldn't find the entrance to the mountain were furious and collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. Brother, why don't we just forget it? We don't even know where to get in. Someone immediately nodded in agreement. Let's go back. We've been searching for 2 days. What if we run into a tiger or a wolf? After saying that, he was scared. Yes. I'm so tired. I won't go. I can't walk anymore. Brother, let's go back. We sold those goods and got more than 200 taels, which is enough for us for a while. The leader kicked the man fiercely. What can more than 200 taels do? We spent nearly 100 taels on dinner and drinks at Wanhua Tower that day. The rest is not enough for them to have another meal. Seeing that several men looked unconvinced, their eyes rolled. He bewitched and said, there are many treasures in this mountain. They can take out hundreds of kilograms of dry goods, and there may be more. Can they sell them all? Don't they keep some at home? Besides, even if there is nothing left, we can go into the mountain to pick them up again. As long as we catch them, occupy their territory, and let them work for us to earn money, what else do we have to worry about? Just lie down and eat. Isn't it better than us wandering around outside? The eldest brother is the eldest brother, and what he said makes sense. The group of people were refreshed by what their boss said. Si Yuan and Si Yuan, who were in the dark, heard it and gritted their teeth, and a ball of anger rose in their hearts. Damn thieves, you still want to catch them and let them help you work? Dream on your spring and autumn period. Si Yuan and Si Yuan waved his hand behind him, and an old man came out of the bushes and walked towards the group of thieves. Who? The group of thieves heard movement in the mountain and turned their heads to look. Then an old man came out staggeringly, carrying a shoulder pole with 2 twisted hemp ropes hanging on it and a chopping axe hanging on his waist. You, stop. The old man was a little scared when he saw a group of people in front of him looking at him. What are you doing? The leader walked towards the old man, looked him up and down, and said, are you a woodcutter? The old man nodded, yes, yes. Winter is coming, I came out to collect some firewood. It's cold in the mountains this winter. It's not good to have less firewood. After saying that, he looked at them. What are you doing? Going into the mountains to visit relatives. The leader was stunned, and then nodded quickly after coming to his senses. Yes, yes, I am going into the mountains to visit relatives, but I haven't been in touch for many years, and I can't find the way into the mountains. The old man immediately looked familiar. So you want to find someone in our Dalan village? Then you have found the right person. Without someone to lead you, you really can't find the entrance to the mountain. The leader nodded repeatedly. Haha, yes, yes. I just can't find the entrance to the mountain. The old man was very enthusiastic. Who are you looking for? There is no one in the village that I don't know. Looking, who? The leader was not smart for a moment and glanced at the younger brothers. One of the younger brothers was smart and said to the old man, looking for your village chief. My eldest brother is your village chief's relative. The old man said, so you are looking for our village chief. I was wondering why our village chief is a woman and her family never comes to visit her all year round. Look, she is here. Come on, I will take you in. Our village chief will be very happy to see you. The village chief is a woman? The leader was stunned, and the younger brother immediately said, isn't it true? It's not easy for a woman. So as her family, why don't we come to see her today? The old man was contemptuous. He came to visit someone empty-handed? He didn't even bring half a piece of luggage. Did he plan to rely on relatives for food, clothing, and daily necessities? He couldn't find a decent excuse. Returning to the female village leader, her parents came to see her? Damn it, I'll make it impossible for you to come back. The old man showed nothing on his face, smiled, turned around and led a group of people into the mountain without even collecting firewood. Chatting happily with a group of people. Talk about how the mountains are doing this year and how happy everyone is to pick up mountain goods. There were just too few manpower, so a lot of things couldn't be picked up in time and ended up rotting in the mountains. Such a pity. After hearing this, a group of thieves looked at each other happily. How many goods are there? Okay. We are here, how can we let the mountain products rot in the mountains? All you people in the mountains go up to the mountains to pick up wild goods for me. A group of people went into the mountains. The old man said it happily, and the group of thieves also listened happily. There's nothing wrong with it at all. What tricks can an old man do? There are so many of them. With a hook of his little hand, he fell to the ground. Following the old man into the mountains, I felt happy thinking about the piles of mountain goods and the countless money flying towards them. The old man from Beiji as I took 7 or 8 thieves around the mountain, climbing up and down, going through the jungle, climbing the mountain and crossing the ditch, which made the group of thieves very miserable. How far is it? A thief held his knees and gasped for air. It's almost there. As the old man answered, he also asked them if they were tired and if they wanted to take a rest. You have never been in the mountains. This is the first time. You will get used to it the next time, the old man said with a naive look on his face. The thieves gasped, is your village so hidden? The old man nodded, isn't that right? Our ancestors would go into the mountains, didn't they just come here to hide from the war? Of course we have to choose a hidden place, otherwise why would we hide in the mountains? What can a group of people do? 99 steps have been taken. Do you still give up on the last step? There are piles of mountain goods and countless silver in front of you. Don't you want it anymore? A group of thieves panted and continued walking behind the old man. Even if they didn't follow him, they would be confused. If they were asked to go out of the mountains on their own, they would not be able to find the direction. Even if they follow the original path, they can't get out. Where is the original road? Every tree in this mountain looks the same, every ditch, and every section of the mountain road looks the same. Where is the original road? Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 209. After walking for a while, they saw the old man taking a few steps forward, turning around and looking at them with a smile. Red. He also smiled and waved to the thieves, come on, we'll be there soon, just take a few more steps. Is it really just a few more steps to get there? Just a few more steps. Then take a few more steps. Snapped. 7 or 8 thieves fell into a trap together. Dead branches and leaves fell all over the body, covering the head and face. If you don't know that you're being tricked, you're really out of your mind. Are you kidding us? The leader was furious. Seeing that the old man dared to look at them, he raised his head and cursed at the old man. The old man just smiled and said nothing, and soon a dozen more people emerged from nowhere in the forest and surrounded the trap. A dozen strong men poked their heads into the trap. I was just playing tricks on you. That's right, who made you so stupid? I told you to follow, so you just follow. You are told to die, do you want to follow suit? After being scolded by the people in Beijiazai for a long time, the thieves became more and more angry. They yelled and jumped in the trap, trying to climb to the entrance of the cave. The people above were leisurely watching the fun and playing with them. One came up and another was pushed down with a wooden gun. Come up and stab each other. The thief in the trap grabbed something and threw it out. The person outside shrank his head and couldn't hit him anywhere. The thieves were so angry that they screamed. Did you forget when you pretended to be a caravan and played around with the people in the village? The few people who were tricked that day were so angry that they picked up things and threw them into the trap. Several people in the trap were hugging and jumping to hide. In the end, he couldn't bear it anymore. The leading brother was thrown into disgrace by the dirt, dead branches, and rotten leaves. He squatted with his head in the circle surrounded by a group of younger brothers and said loudly, "Okay, what do you want to do?" The head of Zongjai Master was exposed at the entrance of the cave. "What do you want to do?" "I also want to ask you what you want to do." "Take our mountain products and sell them. I am afraid we will get a lot of money." The thief boss looked up and said, "Is that you?" "It's not me. Originally, we were beaten up by you. We searched for you all over the county and couldn't find you, so we all resigned ourselves to it. I didn't expect that you would dare to come to our door yourself." When the elder brother who took the lead heard this, he was so regretful that his intestines turned green. Is he out of his mind? You must think that the mountain people are stupid and want to go into the mountains and rob them again. He also fantasizes about catching them working for him, while they don't have to do anything and just lie down and eat. Who would have thought that, hunting geese all day long, he would eventually be pecked and blinded by geese? He regrets it. Si Yuan caught them one by one and gave the villagers a good beating to vent their anger. And they plundered all the money they had. This group of thieves sold their mountain goods and got more than 200 taels, but they have squandered half of it. Including the dozen or so taels they originally had, a total of more than 120 taels were found. Press them and find out that this is all theirs. The people from Beijiazai didn't kill them. They blindfolded them and took them around the mountain before taking them out of the mountain. He was originally going to take them to Renzhou to hand them over to the governor, but he didn't want to meet a group of people on the way, so he packed 8 of them and gave them 40 taels of silver. As for where Ren Yazi takes them, it is none of their business. They didn't take their lives anyway. When Si Yuan and the others returned to the village and looked at the pile of money, everyone was excited. First, the money advanced by Su Qingyu was repaid, and the remaining money was divided among everyone according to the amount of goods handed over. Although half of the money was lost, it was still not much better than before when I had made nothing. Everyone has a feeling of something lost and found again. I almost cried while holding the silver. Zongjai Master also breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone also returned his money to him. The leader of Zongjai felt that it would be better to leave such troublesome tasks to young people in the future. He was old and planned to enjoy a happy life. After this incident, the villagers in the village no longer opposed Su Qingyu's decision. In addition to doing some physical work, they should not think about these nerve-wracking things, so as not to lose the big for the small. But this time, several thieves almost broke into the village, and everyone suddenly felt a sense of crisis. The guards were more attentive. I would sit around Si Yuan every day and ask them to teach him a trick or two. Su Qingyu discussed with the leader of Zongjai, gathered all the men in the village, and asked them to practice with Si Yuan for an hour every morning and afternoon to practice their muscles, bones and moves. And she herself occasionally took Si Yuan to each village to see the construction status of defense fortifications, occasionally went to her mountain to see, and occasionally walked around the mountain with Zongjai leader to find a place to build a market. This is the next big thing. The terrain must be flat, the place is large, and it is not far from the villages. It is related to the interests of 28 villages. Lu and Ruyi followed the women in the village to dig bamboo shoots, dry them in the sun, and pickle them. Ever since the children in the village ate the bamboo shoots cooked by Sukingyu, they went home and learned how to talk. The women in the village also went to the bamboo forest to look for bamboo fungus and dig bamboo shoots. Then he came to Sukingyu's house and asked her how to make bamboo shoots. Sukingyu taught the dishes to Lu, and Lu showed them to the women in the village. Then all the women in the village would go into the bamboo forest whenever they had free time. Half-grown boys now also like to crawl into the bamboo forest. In the past, they watched their father and brother go hunting in the mountains. They were too young and adults didn't take them with them. They just watched with envy. Since eating the delicious bamboo rat, I have been running into the bamboo forest every day. Bamboo rats have never been used by people before, and the children gain a lot every day. He caught 1 or 2 to feed the family, and was praised by the adults in the family. The half-grown boy burrowed even more diligently into the bamboo forest. Last time, Sukingyu used the money from selling bamboo shoots to buy sweets for the children and made cakes for them. The children even liked to run to Sukingneo's house. Xiaobao plays with a group of older children every day and has a lot of fun. Jumping around every day, my appetite has increased a lot. Having someone to play with him made Sukingneo less worried. She took some time off and ran a few times outside the mountains. When I came back and looked at the dozens of sacks of tea seeds piled up at home, I became worried again. How to squeeze the oil out of them? Transport them to Renzo? It's been a toss-up along the way. Doesn't seem like a good deal. Time-consuming and labor-intensive. And if tea trees are planted in the future, there will be more tea fruits, which will be even more time-consuming, labor-intensive, and expensive. Can this problem be solved in the village? The villagers usually eat animal oil. She asked the village owner Zhong that although each village is self-sufficient, she has never heard of any village having an oil pressing workshop. She went to Suergu's oil mill to see the tools for pressing oil. She remembered its general appearance and understood the principles, but how to make it? Sukingyu was thinking hard about the set of oil extraction tools she saw in Suergu's oil shop. In the end I had no clue. Now is the time to pick tea fruits. There are so many tea fruits on the mountains near Beijiazai, I'm afraid they can be found on other mountains too. During this period, Sukingyu spent a lot of money, but had no income at all. Then do you want to buy a wave of tea fruits? Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 210. Do you want to buy tea fruit? Sukingyu thought about it all night. Reading The answer is, receive. It must be acquired. What's the point of always making wedding clothes for others? She's not a philanthropist. It costs nothing to raise a child. Lu Xiaobao looked at his mother obediently. I don't understand why his mother suddenly looked at him. It's a good thing that he is not sensible now, otherwise I have to ask, where will it cost to raise him? I don't eat as much as you, and I don't use as much fabric as you. I only cover a small corner of my quilt, so why do I spend money? Mom, eat. Xiaobao held up a shelled tea seed and fed it to Sukingyu. Sukingyu scratched his little nose. Silly son, you can't eat this. I'll buy you something delicious after my mother exchanges it for money. After saying this, he told Mother Lu and her daughter, and then went into the room to do some calculations. Should we harvest raw tea fruits or tea seeds? How much does it cost per pound? 3 pounds of fruit can be used to peel 1 pound of tea seeds, and 1 pound of seeds will yield 2 to 3 ounces of oil. The current oil extraction technology is immature, so the oil yield rate must be reduced. 3 kilograms of oil from 10 kilograms of tea seeds is probably enough, but 2 kilograms of oil should be fine. This needs to be seen in person. If the oil extraction tool is really not working, the oil yield will have to drop. What price will be paid for the acquisition? You can't lose money and make a profit, so you might as well sleep with your son in your arms. That idleness. A pound of pork used to cost 20 cents in Fenting Town, and fat pork cost 25 cents. Now the price has doubled. 1 pound of fatty pork can be used to refine 67 taels of oil, which means that 50 cents cannot be used to refine 1 pound of oil. How much does this tea oil cost per pound? Ah, bald headache. It seems that I have to go to Renzo. One is to go to the oil shop to take a look, and the other is to meet the caravan manager who bought their mountain goods last time. Camellia oil is a good thing, but I don't know if he knows the stuff. If no one knows the goods, then she collects a bunch of tea fruits and squeezes out the oil to use it for bathing. A must go. She is good at cheating, negotiating, and so on. But it takes many days to go back and forth, so we can't wait for her to come back and then collect it, right? We can't just let the tea fruits rot on the mountain. Receive. Must be collected. If we can't sell this batch, we just hoard the oil for our own consumption. Fried dough cakes, fried meatballs, fried pastries, and all kinds of fried cakes every day. After figuring it out, Suking Neo called over Zongjai Master and Beishu. Let the leader of Zhone village promote it in Beijia village. She wants to harvest tea fruits. Raw tea fruit costs 1 penny per caddy, and peeled tea seeds cost 4 cents per caddy. Then let Beishu take a few people from the village to shout at other villages. After Zongjai leader and Beishu repeatedly confirmed with her, they ran away like the wind. Raw tea fruit is worth a penny and a pound. With quick hands and feet, one person can pick 200 to 300 kilograms in a day. The tea fruit is very heavy. Even a child can pick dozens of kilograms. That family, oh, how much money does that cost? As for Sukingyu, she couldn't wait for others to bring tea fruits, so she immediately took Siyuan and a sack of peeled tea seeds to Renzo City. It will take many days to leave. Will Xiaobao be taken with him? I thought about it for a long time and took it with me. Children are only at ease when they are under your nose. They took the cattle in the village and hitched a cart to the gate of the village, and then the 3 adults and 1 child drove to Renzo City. Painian, the governor, did not expect that he would see Siyuan again just now, and Sukingyo's mother and son would also come. Very surprised. I thought something had happened. As soon as Xiaobao arrived at the governor's mansion, he was carried by Ma, and Sukingyu and Painian went to the flower hall to talk. You mean these black tea seeds can extract oil? Painian held a handful of camellia seeds in his hand with an expression of disbelief. Sukingyu nodded, yes. But the oil production rate is not high, only 2 kilograms of oil out of 10 kilograms. But this tea oil is indeed a good thing. Sukingyu explained the efficacy of camellia oil. Painian became interested immediately. Good stuff. Yes. It can not only be used for cooking, but can also regulate various functions of the body. It can be taken internally or externally and has certain medicinal value. But I have never seen anyone selling camellia oil before. I wonder if it can be sold. I can't say what price it will be sold for now. Painian thought for a while and said, did you just say that only 2 kilograms of oil can be produced from 10 kilograms of seeds? Yes, its oil production rate is not high. 1 acre can harvest about 2,000 kilograms of fruit. It takes 3 kilograms of fruit to peel 1 kilogram of seeds. So 1 acre of land can yield more than 100 kilograms of oil. So it must be if you can't sell it to ordinary people can't afford it. After hearing this, Painian immediately started calculating in his mind. After a long time, he said with some excitement, this mu produces nearly 2,000 kilograms of fruit, which is quite a lot now. Ordinary people can get 1 or 2 taels of silver from 1 mu of land. If a kilogram of oil sells for 50 cents or more, then the harvest from 1 acre of land is more than 5 taels of silver. If tea trees can be planted in large quantities on the mountain, why worry that Renzo is not rich? Impossible. Sukingyu interrupted him. Why? Planting is difficult. Sukingyu nodded. It takes at least 3 years from planting to bearing fruit on this tea tree, and it takes at least 5 to 7 years to have a good yield. I can't afford it. The situation outside is grim now, and no one can survive 7 years without any output. When Painian heard this, his excitement faded. It takes 7 years. That's really too long. I don't even know if he is alive or not. Why bother making wedding clothes for others? Then you want to? Sukingyu said, before, my godfather asked me to take over the 28 villages, saying that it would be a good business for me. Maybe it would be a way out for the 3 of us. Now I have some ideas. I have traveled around several nearby mountains. Come on, there are such wild tea trees in the mountains. I plan to buy tea fruits in the mountains. I will pay to harvest them in the mountains, and the governor's office will help me connect the merchants. What do you think? Painian shook his head. 20% is too much, let's give it 10% each. You are the one doing this business. Your godfather and I did nothing. The governor's office is just helping you contact the merchants. Sukingyu declined, but when she saw that he was determined, she gave up. Painian tapped his fingers on the table. Somewhat unwillingly, it really takes 7 years to plant this. Sukingyu then said, it takes 7 years to achieve a high yield. I just said that 1 acre can produce more than 100 kilograms of oil. It is estimated that it will take about 7 years to achieve this amount. Fruits can bear fruit in 3 years. Painian felt a little melancholy after hearing this. If it takes 2 or 3 years, he can wait. It's just that 7 years is too long. He is now the governor of Renzo, so he must leave something on the page of Painian in the state annals. Parents and officials have to do something for the common people. It's only been 7 years, and I still don't know who I want to make a wedding dress for. He sighed and said, it would be great if it was the same as farming. If you plant this year, you can harvest half a year. Then our people in Renzo will be rich and strong, and the people will live a prosperous life. After hearing this, Su Qingying looked at him intently. My heart moved. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 211. Sukingyu thought for a while and said to Painian, I also found some good things on the mountain. I will organize various villages to plant and breed them in the spring. I don't know about other places at that time. 28 The villagers will surely live a prosperous life. Oh, Painian was very interested, leaned towards her, and listened carefully. Sukingyu then continued, I am also planning to build a market in the mountain, so that the 28 villagers can trade with each other, and also sell the surplus resources in the mountain. In this way, the villagers can also have with some money, we can improve our lives and it will surely affect the people in the surrounding area and the city of Renzo. After hearing this, Painian looked at Sukingyu intently. Sukingyu met his gaze. After a long time, Painian laughed. You little lady, you are very popular with me. Either because your godfather made the move earlier, I want to accept you as my goddaughter. In that case, let's go ahead and do it. Since we support each other, then I, the governor's office, will naturally protect you. Convoy. Sukingyu was excited, stood up and bowed to him. Thank you, Mr. Pei. You will not be disappointed. I want to meet the caravan manager that day. Or if you have better caravan candidates, you can make an appointment. I can squeeze the oil out and let them taste it, so that they can bid and discuss future cooperation. Okay. After Painian answered, he called towards the door. After a while, the steward in charge of the general affairs and economics of the mansion and the steward of the outer courtyard came in. After the three parties met, the general affairs manager went to contact the caravan. The steward of the outer courtyard took Sukingyu and a sack of tea seeds to the oil mill. When the boss of the oil shop saw that the governor of the governor's office was coming in person, he warmly received the group. Sukingyu asked the boss if tea seeds could be processed. The boss opened the sack and took a look, thinking that she was squeezing the oil for lighting the lamp. Nodding, "It can be exploited. How will the fee be charged?" 1 pound of processing fee is charged for 1 pound of oil, or 1 pound is deducted for 10 pounds of oil. After hearing this, Sukingyu did the math in her mind. She brought 100 kilograms of tea seeds, so the processing fee would cost 100 yuan. 10 kilograms produce 2 kilograms of oil, so today we can produce 20 kilograms of oil. If you don't pay, you have to keep 2 pounds. If the camellia oil is expensive, more than 50 cents per caddy, the boss will make a profit, and vice versa. Sukingyu thought for a while and said, "I'll pay the processing fee." Okay, the boss immediately arranged it. Sukingyu started wandering around the oil shop. In modern times, farmers use their own peanuts, tea seeds, soybeans, and other crops to extract oil, and the processing fees are free because the scraps are left to the oil mill. The recycling price of scraps is much more expensive than the processing fee. But now here, it is obvious that there is no good place for the scraps. The scraps become waste and have not yet been developed and utilized. Sukingyu observed it and found that the oil workshop was very complicated. This process is too many and requires a lot of labor. So is it appropriate to build an oil refinery in the mountains? Sukingyu felt that she needed to think about it carefully. After walking around in the oil shop, the oil hadn't come out yet, and the heat made her uncomfortable, so she had to turn around and go back to the governor's mansion. When the steward got the oil back from the oil mill, the steward on the other side also brought the steward of the caravan. An introduction was given to both parties. The steward's surname was Li. When he saw Sukingyu, he praised her very much. She said the mountain goods they had last time were very good and asked her if they had any more. I was quite disappointed when I heard Sukingyu said that there was no more for the time being. But then she thought of the resources of dozens of villages in her hands, and her heart became hot again. They were so warm that they almost called Sukingyu brothers and sisters. Ask Sukingyu what he brought here this time. Sukingyu took out the camellia oil. Manager Li's eyes lit up. What kind of oil is this? The color was so translucent, with a faint scent of tea, and it didn't solidify in such a cold weather. Sukingyu told Painian the same story about camellia oil. After listening to this, Manager Li's eyes lit up even more. People who engage in business have a keener sense of smell than others and are good at discovering business opportunities that others have not discovered. This is a business opportunity, and it's a big one. Ms. Su, how much oil do you have? We all need it. Thank you, Manager Li, for taking this trip, and thank you for looking after me. We took out this oil for inquiry today, and it's not much. If Manager Li is interested, more oil will come out after a while. If you are not interested, we will find other caravans. Manager Li said hurriedly, No, our caravan wants it. Said, under this situation, people without any manpower or background would not dare to do business outside. There are too many bandits and bandits. It is common for goods to be robbed and people to disappear on the road. Looking at the entire Renzo, no one is better than us. The goods are more complete and the prices are the most reasonable. He boasted about his caravan. The steward of the outer courtyard of the governor's mansion also spoke kindly of Sukingyu in his ears. Sukingyu nodded. Even if he didn't say it, just that this person was recruited by the governor's office, Sukingyu would still have to give him face. Thinking about it? Now that the war is in chaos, transporting oil out of the mountains is no safer than transporting tea seeds. I believe Manager Li should be the same. Then can her oil shop still open? Obviously, you cannot quote the same price when selling oil and oil. So how much should I sell? Manager Lee has been dealing with people for a long time. He glanced at Sukingyu and smiled. He said, "Is Madam Su considering whether it is more cost-effective to sell oil directly or to sell oil?" Unexpectedly, Sukingyu was guessed by him and didn't say anything. She just smiled and raised her eyebrows at him. Manager Lee looked at it and laughed. Said, "If I were Mrs. Su, I would sell oil. It's safe and easy." Sukingyu said nothing. Manager Lee then said, "Even I would rather spend more money to collect oil than transport a lot of oil on the road. After collecting the oil, we can squeeze it out wherever we want to sell it. It will be fresh and free from the traffic. It's a risk. If you travel a long distance, there won't be enough people to grab the oil. Guanxi Li's caravan is famous for having many bodyguards, aren't they all good ones?" Manager Li laughed. "There are so many people that I don't want to transport the oil all the way back. There are so many escorts. It doesn't cost money to hire them. No cost on the road. If something goes wrong and there are casualties or something, there is no need to pay for it. Transport a truckload of oil? People who don't know the goods will only treat it as fodder. Transporting a truck of oil is different. It's like a child walking on the street with gold bricks. I just don't dare to take the risk." He smiled and said, "Mrs. Su, in this kind of world, I advise you that it is best to earn some stable money and put it in your pocket. It is not enough to worry about being on tenterhooks all day long. Besides, you have another person, such a young son has to be raised. If anything happens to you, the child will have no father or mother. Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 212. After hearing what Manager Li said, Sukingyu looked at him and smiled. Said, "Then it depends on what price Manager Li is willing to pay. I can store a lot of oil. If not, I will stock up and slowly look for goods. Mrs. Su has never cooperated with us before. After we have cooperated for a long time, you will naturally know that our prices are the most reasonable. Then please ask Manager Li to bid. The price is satisfactory to me, and there will naturally be more opportunities for cooperation in the future. We have a lot of treasures in the mountains. Ha ha ha, that is, 28 villages are in Mrs. Su's hands, how can we lose the treasure?" Sukingyu raised her eyebrows in surprise, tilted her head, and looked at Governor Pei of the governor's office. Manager Pei came over and whispered in her ear, "My lord said that. It was not me. Mr. Pei has revealed everything to the other party?" Manager Li smiled meaningfully, "Mrs. Su, you don't have to look at me like that. We businessmen only want to make money, and other things like killing and killing have nothing to do with us. Whoever sits in that position has no impact on us. Whoever sits in that position has nothing to do with us. When we go up, we will bring gold and silver to pay tribute to whomever we want to serve." Sukingyu frowned in thought. The owner of this caravan is very practical. It seems that it can stand firm in troubled times. Master Pei gave him the secret. It seems that the owner of this caravan is very familiar with Master Pei. It should be a relationship of mutual trust. However, as soon as Mr. Pei took the position of governor, the caravan entered Renzhou and opened up all the shops in Renzhou. The people of Renzhou city were not short of daily necessities. It seems that the two parties have reached a consensus. Sukingyu crossed her fingers. Manager Li looked at her and said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Su, we only care about making money. If we have money, let's make it together. We don't want to care about anything else. They say there is no business without treachery, but we value business the most. Please don't do anything to undermine each other. Madam Su, please feel free to cooperate with us. I plan to give Sukingyu another reassurance pill." Manager Pei also nodded secretly to Sukingyu. Sukingyu then looked at Manager Li. Said, since Mr. Pei can trust you, then I can naturally trust you. I originally wanted to build an oil mill in the mountains, but now I am willing to make it convenient for Manager Li, but I am not the only one who gets the profit, so this price. I understand. It will definitely satisfy Madame Su. The two sides were anxious for a while, and Guan Li spoke in advance. 10 coins Manager Li bid. The goods are in MRSU's hands. She has the confidence to hold it in without opening her mouth first. Although Manager Li had seen strong winds and waves, he still quoted the price. Su Qingyu smiled and shook her head. She was planning to open an oil mill and squeeze the oil herself to sell it. If you are in the high-end and large-scale market, the oil price is going to be set at 50 cents or more. Then you should be able to sell it for the wholesale price of 40 cents. For 10 cents per pound of oil, she made no loss, but she didn't make much profit. When Manager Li saw that she didn't respond, he said, the price is very high. We have to transport it to various places all the way, and there are escort fees, personnel costs, losses on the road, and the pressing after transporting it back, as well as the labor of the oil mill. Silver. Not counting these, the cost of a pound of oil alone is 50 cents. Su Qingyu nodded, I understand. But Manager Li needs to know that the quality and efficacy of this tea fruit are there. I have already asked the governor's office to use this oil to make several dishes. Manager Li might as well wait for the dishes to be served. Will you decide after eating? Su Qingyu refused to respond. Although Manager Li was anxious, he had to stop. The food was ready and served quickly. The white porcelain plate contains the plain food. The presentation is beautiful and the color, aroma, and shape are all present. Look at the oil, which is clear in color and mixed with the original aroma of the food and the faint fragrance of tea, which is very appetizing. And the weather is cold, which makes the oil even more rare. It was brought all the way from the kitchen, but it was still moist and not solidified at all. If it is animal fat, when the weather gets cold, the vegetables and oil will solidify together. Manager Li was so fragrant with the aroma of sesame oil that he couldn't help but pick up his chopsticks and taste it. Su Qingyu also picked up the chopsticks since she hadn't eaten either. At this entrance, I couldn't help but nod my head. The chef of the governor's mansion is really skilled in craftsmanship and the taste is delicious. Manager Pei also ate several mouthfuls, boasting and helping Su Qingyu. Soon the three of them finished eating and the plates were removed. Su Qingyu demonstrated some external application with oil. After reading it, Manager Li said, then add 2 cents per caddy. Su Qingyu still shook her head. It's not that I have to argue with Manager Li over the pennies. It's just that this tea fruit is so rare. I brought a sack this time, and it only took 10 or 20 kilograms for 100 kilograms of oil. 1 acre of land can produce 100 kilograms. A kilogram of oil is good. Moreover, these tea trees grow on the top of the mountain. It is not easy to climb up and down the mountain and carry heavy objects. The mountain peaks are dangerous and there are many wild animals. Too cheap and not worth it. And what's going on outside now, Manager Li should know. No one is raising pigs anymore, and people who want to eat oil have no place to buy meat. 50 cents per pound of meat can't produce a pound of oil. Is tea oil better than pigs? Oil prices are low. Besides, everything is expensive now. The money you get from selling 100 caddies of tea fruit is not enough to buy a caddy of salt. If there was peace, I would have gritted my teeth and agreed to this price, but not now. Manager Li rubbed his face. MRSU's price was too harsh. He also remembered what Manager Pei had told him, that 20% of the profits from the things MRSU sold would be divided between Mr. Pei and Ma Mingguan. The price is low, she is afraid that she will be making wedding dresses for others. I guess she, a young lady, is not willing to do such a thing. Why bother? It is better to raise children at home, Why do you have to do such a job that is exposed to the public? While thinking, he looked at Suchingen. Seeing her drinking tea leisurely, with a confident look on her face, she is afraid that she still has a lot of good things in her hands, so she is not worried that he will not want it. So he said, our boss wants to cooperate with Madame Su for a long time. Since Madame Su has said this, I will express our sincerity on behalf of our boss and add 3 cents per caddy. This price is my bottom line. I am afraid that if I raise the price privately, I will be scolded by our boss when I go back. If the year is good, I hope Madame Su can spare 1 or 2 cents, so that the brothers can have a hard-earned salary. Suchingen laughed. I am afraid your boss will only praise you such a good thing, there will always be someone who knows the value. After saying that, he quickly calculated in his mind. She originally wanted to sell oil, but now she has to sell oil materials. 15 cents per pound, the purchase price is 4 cents, plus loss, her labor cost, here may have to deduct 10%, or even 20%, and then deduct the money for Godfather and Lord pay. She can keep about 60%. Based on 2,000 caddies of tea fruit per mu, if these mountains can produce 1 million caddies of tea seeds a year, she can have more than 6,000 taels of silver a year. Even if she cuts it in half, she will have about 3,000 taels. She said to Manager Li, okay. I agree to this price. Manager Li breathed a sigh of relief. Although they can sell the tea oil after some operation, the price is too high and the profit is less. Fortunately, everyone is happy. Then Manager Li may have to stay in Renzhou for a while. This period is the time to harvest tea fruit, and it takes a long time to dry and peel it. Don't worry. Our caravan has a shop in Renzhou, and there are always people there. Madame Su just needs to deliver it. The two of them agreed. Suchingen sent him out. They looked like close partners now. Madame Su, please stay. I hope you will remember our caravan when you have something good in the future. I will. After they left, Suchingen told Master Pei about the matter and left the remaining oil to him. Pei Nian liked this tea oil very much and happily accepted it. He asked someone to escort her away again.